So Dorothy finds out on her journey that she had it all within her, that she knew all along. So as we journey through the 12 powers this year, we talked about love first. Today we're starting our discussion about wisdom. Wisdom lives within us. Knowledge is what we acquire, the things we learn, things that come from outside that we take in. But wisdom comes from that seat of the soul, our divinity, our beingness. Wisdom is very closely linked to love. John represents love, John the Apostle, and James, son of Zebedee, represents wisdom. And Jesus often took James and John with him when he traveled. And that, I think, is a lesson for us, that wisdom should always be tempered. Tempers love. Because sometimes the heart of us, can go places we never thought it would or should go. And it's wisdom that needs to rein it in. It's wisdom that helps us with tough love, sometimes, as we call it. That we still love, but we need to have boundaries. And we talked about boundaries in the last 4 weeks in our discussion of love. And it is wisdom that brings us to boundaries, that reminds us that sometimes love can run away with us. And we can run away with love. So from Truth Unity, the metaphysical meaning of James the Apostle. James, the son of Zebedee, is that disciple of Jesus Christ who represents the faculty of judgment in individual consciousness. In the body, this faculty has its central seat of activity in the lower part of the nerve center called the solar plexus. We also call this faculty discrimination. It is that quality in us which carefully weighs a question and draws a conclusion. The prevailing tendency of judgment is toward caution, fearfulness, criticism, and condemnation when it draws its conclusions from the effect side of existence. We should therefore faithfully affirm the spiritual aspect of this faculty and always seek the guidance and good of spiritual light and understanding. Wisdom is spiritual light and understanding. The ability to discern, to know what is true despite or in light of what's in front of us. Because sometimes the information is faulty or deceiving, or there's lots of hype and drama around what we hear and see and experience. And it takes the inner faculty of wisdom to bring you to the light, to show you what's true. What is truth with a capital T in this instance? It seems like Richard Rohr, the founder of the Center for Action and Contemplation, has some kind of into my life, because he always knows what I need to talk about, it seems. So today's meditation from Richard Rohr is about wisdom. He says wisdom is a way of being whole and fully open to a knowing beyond rational thought alone. To see in such a way requires the hard work of keeping all our inner spaces open mind, heart, and body, all at once. This is at the center of any authentic spirituality, and it does not happen easily or without paying respectful and non-egoic attention to the moment in front of me and within me, which I call prayer. Cynthia Bourgeau writes of the deep interior commitment that must be made by those who embark on this path. A wisdom way of knowing requires the whole of one's being, is ultimately attained only through the yielding of one's whole being into the intimacy of knowing and being known. It doesn't happen apart from complete vulnerability and self-giving, but the divine lover, with a capital L, is absolutely real. And for those willing to bear the wounds of intimacy, the knowledge of that underlying coherence in which all things hold together is both possible and inevitable. Talk about beautifully written. Requires the whole of one's being and is ultimately attained only through the yielding of one's whole being into the intimacy of knowing and being known. We have to give ourselves up to experience and be wisdom. To let go of this brain, to let go of the information in front of you, and to just know from here, from this space in the solar plexus, that deep inner knowing that comes from no one else. And just like the good witch Glinda told Dorothy, nobody else can give it to you. Nobody. Doesn't matter how much they love you, how long they've known you, or what their intentions are. Only you know with a capital K. Only you. We talked about in our Wednesday book study this past week about wisdom. And that Jesus not only was a teacher of wisdom, but that he was wisdom incarnate. That he showed up as wisdom in the world, exemplified that. He was wisdom manifested. And so if Jesus can, we also can. He is the way shower. He showed us what wisdom looked like, what it sounded like. It was often quiet. It was often a question. It was many times restraint. Wisdom had such a high regard in early Christian traditions that it was given personification. Sophia. Remember we talked about Sophia this past Wednesday. Sophia. Feminine personification. And in Proverbs, it says that we should seek her. Seek wisdom always. Run to her. Love her. Embrace her. Wisdom. For that's where all the answers are. That's our yellow brick road. That's how we know to find the way home. That's how we know what home is. It's the way, the truth, the light. And so just like Vicki read in the Daily Word today, in those difficult situations, in those times when you are all over the place, when it seems like life is handing you something you can't handle, all you have to do is remember that it's here. It's here. And where do you find it? In the silence. In the silence. And that's where you go, that vulnerability that Richard Rohr talked about. Being vulnerable in the silence to the answer, to the guidance, to the next word, the next step, the next place. To be vulnerable in that space, to open up completely, to say, I'm here and ready for whatever the answer is. And embracing that. I've said this before. For decades, I heard the answer here. Shelley used the word listening to our gut, that it's important. And I do believe that what you hear and feel in your gut is wisdom speaking to you. And how many times do we ignore what the gut says? Because on paper, it just looks like the answer should be different. Man, there's so many times, and I've shared those stories. All of us have those instances in our lives when our gut said one thing, but on paper, rationally, the opposite was being presented to us as a solution to whatever was going on. So we go with what's on paper, and all hell breaks loose.
That's right.
And we drive a situation into the ditch. And we all have that moment where you said, something told me not to do that. Right? That something is wisdom. Sophia showing up, saying, come here, come this way. Say this, do that, don't do that, don't do this. She's not the one. He's not the one. Yeah. So going with our gut, vulnerability, being fully open, being willing to hear and to heed, and trusting. Wisdom is nothing but noise if we don't trust. It's just more information floating around. If we don't trust it and move forward with it. And be courageous to follow whatever it is that is presented to us. Sometimes it takes courage to do what wisdom is calling us to.
Is it to be willing to?
I think so.
Exactly. Trust.
Or maybe just being willing to listen. Being willing to go into the silence. Being willing to hear and to do something other than what you think is right. Because sometimes we just want to be right. You know, Dr. Phil always asks, do you want to be right or do you want to have peace? Wisdom always, always brings peace. And it may not be that in the moment. It might not feel like that when you're presented with the answer, with the solution, and it might not look like it because sometimes what wisdom tells us to do can wreak havoc for a little while, somewhere, with someone,
Yeah.
or it doesn't feel so good. But there's always peace. There's always peace, I have found, when we follow wisdom, when we trust wisdom, when we trust her. There's always peace in the end. Always. And the older I get, peace is the prized possession above all other things. Yeah. And so if we're truly seeking peace, seek her wisdom first. Because she's seeking you. All the time. All day, every moment. That still small voice you hear, that nagging thing, you say, why do I keep hearing that? Why does that message keep coming up?
I can do it.
It's Sophia, wisdom, chasing you down, saying you're getting ready to drive that in the ditch. I'm telling you. She's tapping you. Sometimes slapping you. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't do any good, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes we ignore her.
I picture myself like trying to jump over this creek and saying, I know I can do it, but there's an easier path over there for me as old as I am. Just take that little path over there.
Yeah.
I'll jump across there.
Yeah.
Luke.
You want to jump over that ditch in front of you. Yeah.
Thank you.
The good thing is, and maybe this is grace,
Yeah, exactly.
that no matter how many times you ignore wisdom, she still is there.
Yes, thank you. That's beautiful.
She's still there. So that when you're trying to pick up the pieces of whatever it is, you just drove into the ditch. Wisdom is still there to guide you on the way out. Surrender used to be a 4-letter word for me. Bad word, I didn't do it. I surrender to nothing and no one. But I learned to surrender to wisdom, to spirit, to the God within me. I may not surrender to anything else in life. But if you surrender to that, peace will surely find you. Peace will surely find you. Let's take this into meditation. Just breathe. So let's concentrate on this space around the heart, the solar plexus. That place that gets tight when we're under stress, when we're challenged, when we're backed up against the wall. Just breathe into that space, expand it. Expand it. Let your beingness sit there in that heart space, that solar plexus area. Just let yourself be there, trusting, knowing. Your mind, body, spirit, and heart is wise. Your body has a wisdom all its own that knows how to heal, that governs everything that goes on in the body. All the billions of processes that go on without our knowledge or intervention. That's the wisdom of the body. Your heart has a wisdom. That guides all that you feel. Your joy, your sadness, your grief. Your confusion, your frustration. Your heart has wisdom for all of it. Your mind has a wisdom and intelligence. Your spirit. Spirit with a capital S is all-knowing. And all of them function together as divine mind in you. Divine mind. The wisdom of all the ages. Everyone who has ever lived is living now. And who will live in the future is encompassed in divine mind. Everything you ever need to know is within you right now as wisdom. She is Sophia. Love her. Embrace her. Trust her. She speaks to you now. She speaks to you in every moment of every day, leading you along a path of peace. Guiding your every word, thought, deed. Everything you need to know is within you. Open your heart and mind fully. Just allow yourself to rest there. There's no need for struggle. Take a deep breath together. Breathing in slowly, fully, deeply, expanding the lungs. And exhale. Breathe in again, breathing in wisdom. Breathing out wisdom. Breathe in wisdom. Breathing out wisdom. Knowing there is a limitless, inexhaustible supply of wisdom. Now let's just sit in the silence. Holding space for one another. Let's breathe in together. Inhale, exhale. One more time, breathe it in slowly. Hold it at the top. Exhale. When you're ready, return to the room.